Good afternoon, Australia. Welcome to the national capital, Canberra, for today's Round 19 clash of the Winfield Cup. We take you to Bruce Stadium, home of the Canberra Raiders, for what is a vital clash between Canberra and the Sharks of Cronulla, with just 4 rounds left before the start of the semis. Last week saw a major upset for Cronulla as they were defeated by St George, 28-6. While for Canberra, in a less than impressive performance, they defeated Canterbury by 8 points, leaving the premiership ladder with Canberra in equal second position on 25 and Cronulla just 2 points away from the top 5 on 22 points. Both sides possess sparkling backlines, and today's game should be close, as when they last met, only a point separated the sides, with Cronulla taking the score.
And Cronulla have a good record of success against the Raiders in recent years, but the Sharks go much better at home, and we're a long way from the Pacific Ocean today. In fact, it feels like we're on top of Mount Kosciuszko. But what a vital game it is for Cronulla. They have to right their listing ship after that morale-denting loss to St George. The Sharks will be pinning their hopes on second rower Dan Staines. He's been battling a virus for 2 months, but his quick-moving, hard-hitting defence will be needed to stifle Canberra's forwards. In attack, Gavin Miller is the key, running at an angle with runners inside and outside, holding up the pass to mesmerise the defence. Out wide, Andrew Eddinghausen will be ready to fly into open spaces, and there's no shortage of pace in the Sharks' backline. Canberra are still plugging away below their best. Their best is near perfect, but in Gary Belcher's words, the Raiders have been lacking hunger. Again, they're missing class acts in Laurie Daly, Bradley Clyde and Steve Walters, and Brent Todd is away with the Kiwis. Experienced second rower, Dean Lance, must stir up his forward pack with some big hits and carry the ball over the advantage line to give his backs room. 5'8" Chris O'Sullivan is beginning to shake off his injuries, and a more confident O'Sullivan will get his back line moving, while Mal Meninga, who's been hampered by an ankle injury, may be ready to start running again. And that'll mean trouble for Mark McGaw if he's to carry a groin strain. It could depend on whether Cronulla can nullify Ricky Stewart's kicking game and who can get on top in the forwards, Arthur.
Well, Warren, no side can completely shut down Ricky Stewart's kicking game. What Cronulla must do today is force Canberra to use their option kicker in Gary Belcher. And if they consistently do that, they'll make life a lot easier for Jonathan Docking. Assuming that both sides, especially in the back line, cancel each other out, the battle up front is going to be paramount today. Both sides have been very much out of form, and I suppose both coaches will be looking for a much improved effort from both backs.
So it's the Sharks trying to stay in touch with the 5, but it won't be easy against Canberra.
This is ABC Sport, bringing all Australia rugby league action at its best, live and uninterrupted on your national network.
A good crowd of hardy fans packing in here at the Bruce Stadium. You have to be pretty hardy to get here to barrack for the Raiders today because the conditions are pretty miserable. You can see the lights coming on because we have some pretty dark clouds above. And John Peard, Don Furner just told me, local knowledge, it's about 2 degrees, he reckons.
He'd be a good judge because he's a native of the area, Warren, but it is bitterly cold. A wind blowing across the field, a westerly wind. Might aid the team running left to right just slightly. But I think Cronulla's got all to do today and they've got to stand up. That's just how cold it is today. Every picture paints a story, I guess. But Cronulla, they've got to stop Canberra going forward in the forwards. If they can do that, they can nullify this Canberra backline. Should be a good game, Warren.
I think you've hit the nail on the head. That is the way to beat Canberra. We saw Canterbury do it earlier in the season. We saw Cronulla beat the Raiders. And what will the story be today as Mal Meninga leads the Raiders onto the field? The big captain needs to have a big game today. Nigel Gaffey, number 12, in the second row. One of the newcomers to this Raiders lineup. Plenty of expectations on him. The team lineup, Gary Belcher at fullback, Phil Carey on one wing, Meninga and Matthew Wood in the centre with Johnny Ferguson on the other wing, O'Sullivan at 5'8", Ricky Stewart the halfback, Craig Bellamy as the lock forward, Nigel Gaffey in the second row with Dean Lance, and the front row, Glenn Lazarus, Wayne Collins and Gary Coyne. The coach is Tim Sheens. The Sharks on their way to a sour welcome from the home crowd here of the Raiders. Dan Staines, Alan Wilson and Arthur Pappas, the last man out of the tunnel. Docking at fullback, Coleman on one wing, Eddinghausen and McGaw in the centres, John Davidson the other wing, Speechley at 5'8", Laurie Spooner is the halfback, Alan Wilson in at lock forward because David Hatch is injured, Miller and Staines in the second row, Pappas will be the hooker, and Porter and Leary's prop forwards with the coach, Alan Fitzgibbon. Gavin Miller has a lot of responsibility today. He's the captain, but of course he is the linchpin of their attack. And the new man in the Canberra lineup, Nigel Gaffey, 19 years of age, has been in sensational form in the President's Cup. And they believe that this man can be as good as Bradley Clyde in years to come. He's trailed him through. I reckon that he has plenty of potential. Ricky Stewart, a man who knows how to take advantage of a wind blowing across a ground or down a ground. And he should know this Bruce Stadium by now. The referee is Eddie Ward. And we're underway in what really is a very important game for the Sharks in particular. A kick down for Ricky Stewart, close to his line, and he hands it on to Phil Carey. Canberra have won 6 games from 9 at home this season. Cronulla have only won 3 away from home. 3 out of 8 away from home. The Sharks are up inside the 5. Alan Wilson.
We have a look here in replay. The same as last week, Eddie Ward's the same referee, and we see that he's clamping down on the 5 metres early on, so he's sticking to a consistent practice.
A warm cup of coffee, hopefully a hot cup of coffee for Alan Fitzgibbon, as Dean Lance takes on the Sharks' defence early on here. Stewart moves it wide out to Gary Coyne on the edge of the ruck. Halves, Speechley and Spooner up. Points scored by the two teams. Canberra 404, Cronulla 337. And against Canberra 219. Just a little bit better as we see Mal Meninga breaking a full stride. Pushes one out of the road. Slips a pass to a man who has already marked. Gary Belcher has them all over the top of him.
A great break there by Meninga. It's a daunting task for Laurie Spooner here. We have on replay here the huge frame of Mal Meninga. Poor old Laurie Spooner getting his head in front of the man there. Laurie, you're not going to last long in this game if you put your head in front of the carrier.
No, not when he's over 100 kilograms or so. What's Mal, about 107?
Well, he claims to be about 108, but that's without breakfast.
Good cover the defence nevertheless by Spooner, and that'll give Mal Meninga a little burst of encouragement because his form has been down in recent weeks. Been carrying an ankle injury, and he should be just about ready to get back towards his best now. Back it goes to Speechley for the kick. And the spiral punt in behind Carey, who had plenty of time to collect it. Has Gary Belcher, but there's 5 Shark jerseys in front of him, and a good tackle from Pappas. As Mal Meninga made that bust, we were showing you the record for and against. And in fact, in defence, Canberra have conceded 219 points to Cronulla's 247. What it all adds up to is that Canberra have a better record in attack and defence. And that's in the same zone, the southern zone, so it's a fair comparison. And Collins with the kick, down towards Docking, who found it coming at him slightly awkwardly. He was trying to get to it on the 4, realised that he couldn't get to it. Good tackle from Matthew Wood. Coleman from dummy half, taken by Lazarus. And 2 more come over the top to help out. Danny Lee, former Lismore boy, played with the Brothers Club at Lismore. Been with the Sharks for a couple of seasons now. Staines hits it up. Jonathan Docking limping already in the back play. Speechley got the kick in as Lance came towards him. Back turn. And Ferguson gets a roar from the crowd. And through the first tackle, left Coleman grasping at air. Just stays in the field of the play as Eddinghausen finally gets hold of him. Wood right on halfway.
Chico, a great favourite here at Bruce Stadium. The roar went up from the crowd, and everyone expects something to happen when Chico has the ball.
And it often does. He scored 11 tries this season. Belcher scored 11, Meninga 12, all right up the top of the point-scoring lists. Gaffey gets a tackle from Speechley, who's right around his legs. In the early games today, Canberra defeated Cronulla 26-16. And in reserve grade, another win to the Raiders, 32-18. And in both cases, both grades, Canberra up towards the top of the ladder, if not on top, and Cronulla hanging in for a spot in the 5, so it's been a disappointing day for the Sharks so far. Good bounce for Coleman here, but he's gone into touch. Driven into touch by Craig Bellamy, and he gets some support there from Ricky Stewart.
Yeah, it's a great midfield bomb here by Ricky Stewart, and a great chase by Craig Bellamy. Have a look here. Coleman there being forced into touch by a great chase by Craig Bellamy.
Chance for the Raiders. The scrum only 20 metres out. O'Sullivan, Meninga, back to O'Sullivan. He's scouting wide, inside to Wood. Wood taken by Miller and Speechley. Speechley already making some effective tackles. Here comes Lance, hits the advantage line but gets a great tackle. McGaw, no, it was Pappas. Pappas lined him up. Lazarus carries it forward. The Raiders coming in waves. They're 10 metres out. The backs are deep. Collins has a go himself. Taken by Docking. Just a couple of metres out. The back line still well set. Bellamy, Stewart, long ball for Belcher. Stab kicks in with the left foot. But there's no one really coming through except for Coleman to cover it up. Seems to be a slight lack of understanding. And Chris O'Sullivan's down in the back plate.
Chris O'Sullivan hurt in that run around. But you have a look here, the stab kick here by Belcher. The Cronulla defence just getting back to force that dead-end goal. So it's a line drop out.
Big shoulder charge from ET then on Chris O'Sullivan. That did the damage.
O'Sullivan back on his feet, looks to be okay. Here's Eddinghausen's dropout, covers the halfway line, and Mal Meninga handballing it back, so it almost going 70 metres in the end. Meninga trying to rev back towards full pace. He's pulled down just short of the halfway. Danny Lee in the tackle there. Bellamy steps off his right foot, can't beat Michael Porter's tackle. Stewart, O'Sullivan inside for Lance, and he finds a little bit of space. Hit in the tackle by Staines.
Warren already, Canberra looked a lot more sharper than previous weeks.
And Cronulla up inside the 5. Cronulla trying to get up there to try and contain the Raiders forwards. But as you say, John, a lot of keenness there, hitting that advantage line and getting well over it.
Yeah, I think they think it's time to get their act in order if they want to play a part in the finals.
Leaders gained early in the match. All Canberra, 209 against 111. More possession for the Raiders. Early days, of course, but Mal Meninga's going to have a shot at goal. 33 metres out, just to the left of the uprights. Both teams have a pretty long injury list at the moment. If we look at Cronulla, David Hatch out with a broken cheekbone. Matthew Corkery has an ankle injury. Craig Diamond's out. Luke Massey has a shoulder problem. And a couple of question marks over McGaw with a groin strain. Staines has been carrying this virus, and also Alan Wilson has been carrying a chest injury. So 4 players on the sidelines and maybe a couple of players out there with needles. Mal Meninga stabs this one right off the toe of the boot, but it's wide. It wasn't a difficult one and he's missed. And the score remains 0-0.
Well, I don't think Danny Staines is 100% fit yet, but he has to get his name before the Kangaroo selectors. So, he's very desperate to go away with that Kangaroo tour. So, we might find that he doesn't last the 80 minutes.
Tim Sheens at the back of the stand, behind the glass.
Well, you don't blame him. He's indoors. They refused admission there to a couple of penguins I saw walk in there before.
Here's Collins, or Carey it is, dancing away from the tackle. Now it's Collins. 2 blonde-headed fellas, one a winger, one a hooker, look a little alike. Coyne slips a ball away to Gaffey. It's taken by Miller, just short of the halfway. Lazarus decoy runner on the blind. It goes to Meninga in the end on the open. His kick deflected in behind Davidson. In the end, the kick just gaining 20 metres. Porter hits it up. Making the tackle, Bellamy, Gary Coyne, and first man in was Collins. Davidson gets a shoulder charge from Lazarus. Warning to wingers, stay out of the middle. Lee. He can't break through. The Raiders' defence is solid. Miller. Speechley. Long ball for Eddinghausen. Tries to get outside Wood, and Wood dives and manages to drag him down. Eddinghausen had the speed to start to get away from him. Speechley's kick finds touch.
It was interesting to note there that Miller just acted as a pivot there. Normally he takes the defence on, but we have a look here. Great kick by Michael Speechley. It's what he does best, and rolling into touch.
It's a Raiders ball back on their own 22. Wood. Well taken there by docking up in the line. There's no fullback. They spin it to the far side. Lance looking wide. Belcher was coming through, but taken in the tackle by Porter. Ferguson from dummy half. Talking about that injury list, well, it's not much better for Canberra with Clyde, Daly, Walters out of action.
There's good news on the horizon, I think. Clyde should be back within a couple of weeks, and Roy Daly,
I think he's about the same, about 2 weeks. Docking has slipped over. Stewart is flying through. Docking just gets to it first. He's not tackled, so he plays on.
Eddie Ward enforcing a big 5 at the moment, which, you know, make sure that there will be pretty good attacking football.
Yeah, I think that's helping Canberra, Arthur, settle into their well-renowned style.
But it should suit both teams in the long run. They both have plenty of sparkle in the back lines. Miller, long pass out to Speechley. He's looking for McGaw to nobody. It was intended for Eddinghausen, but it certainly went nowhere near him.
Well, I think Eddie Ward heard there. That ball went forward from McGaw, and that's what the crowd is in an uproar about.
Yeah, he's ruled it's come off Canberra player.
Yeah, we have a look here. Mark McGaw definitely goes forward, so scrum should have went down.
So Sullivan.
I don't blame him trying to get rid of the ball. He had the huge frame of Mal Meninga looming down on him.
We've seen that manoeuvre from McGaw and Eddinghausen a few times in recent weeks, where Eddinghausen comes on the burst on the inside of McGaw and he tries to stand in the tackle and put it back inside. Not so successful that time. Wilson with the kick. It's a high one for Belcher. Takes it well in the field of play. Away from Wilson, and he's still going. Belcher down the touchline. Across comes Miller. Ferguson's outside. Plenty of cover. Porter gets hold of Ferguson. But the Sharks now trailing back to their 5-metre line. Plenty of room for the Raiders. Meninga off Lazarus. But Laurie Spina got up well and stopped Mal Meninga enough for the rest to come and help him out.
A bit of an unfair contest there. It's happened a few times already where Laurie Spina has been confronted by Mal Meninga, and
well, the decision is against Lazarus, offside or deliberate forward pass, whichever way you like. Lazarus overrunning the dummy half. I thought he was going to get away with it, but that's the risk you take when you're trying to hit that advantage line very flat, not give the defence any time to move up on you. And the penalty went to Cronulla.
Well, have a look at that. There's a whopping 8 errors there by Cronulla to 1, and the majority of those are missed tackles, 7 by Cronulla. So Alan Fitzgibbons would send the word out there to tighten up the defence. We go back to last week, they conceded plenty of points to St George.
They certainly did. That was a real whipping from St George. They were in it at half-time, but the Dragons ran away in the second half. Danny Lee cutting from blind to open, trying to find a hole through the middle, and Pappas was coming. Only 10 metres out now. Speechley cuts to the blind side to Porter. Docking was alongside him, just a few metres out. Good position now for the Sharks. Still a few tackles up their sleeve. Wilson goes straight into Dean Lance. Setting up the play now, Cronulla. Wide from Miller. Spina. Speechley. Kicks in behind Ferguson, but there's no one coming through and the kick's too deep. Well, that's 2 kicks we've seen where they really doesn't seem to have been the understanding, one on either side.
Well, a little bit disappointing here. Speechley had a few options, and I believe he took the wrong option here. He goes for the grubber, and Chika had this covered. If we have a look, we can't see it on replay, but the ball rolling end on end. But Chika was there in plenty of time, but he had the option. He had an overlap out wide. And McGaw and Eddinghausen.
And the chasers were deep, expecting him to use the overlap, and they weren't in any position to get through on the kick. Gary Coyne. Again, a very flat pass.
Yeah, well, I believe that pass was forward also. He didn't pick that one up.
Bellamy inside to Lance. It's that much more difficult for the referee when he's back marking 10 metres from the play the ball, and the pass virtually goes from the dummy half. It's not a good angle to see it. Here's O'Sullivan. O'Sullivan cuts through, taken by Eddinghausen before he could link up with the support. Meninga. Stewart hands it off to Collins. On it goes to Bellamy, but he took his eye off the ball. Scrappy play in the end from the Raiders just when they were on a roll.
Yeah, it's obvious that we have a look here. The short pass here from Collins. Just taking his eye off the ball there, Bellamy, but it's obvious already that they're trying to play the Cronulla side out wide. They're trying to get the numbers on them out wide, and it's happened on a few occasions. We just saw Sullivan there cut through, and one of the front row forwards there was stuck out there.
Here's Docking with some room to move. Bounces away from Meninga, but not from O'Sullivan. Laurie Spina must have almost had his hands in that scrum as he fed the ball. He seemed to push the ball back in through the tunnel.
He's probably learned at East.
What's that supposed to mean? Here's Pappas. Penalty goes to Cronulla. The Raiders were never back to 5. I think is referee Ward's decision. Gary Coyne up there too quickly. Have this eerie sensation here at Bruce Stadium. Whenever the penalties go to Cronulla or whenever Cronulla score points, the crowd are deathly silent. And you start to wonder whether or not there's something else happening that you haven't seen or haven't noticed, because they just go dead quiet. It's different, of course, when the Raiders are on the attack. Ron Massey, Alan Fitzgibbon. What would we call them? The Cronulla Mafia.
Well, that's the Brains Trust there. Ron Massey was rugged up.
On the 22. Speechley again comes to the blind side. Inside is Davidson. He's pulled down by Coyne. 15 metres out. Spina. Miller. Back to Spina. Gets his pass away. Eddinghausen on the outside of Meninga. McGaw has his winger with him. Gets it to Coleman. And Coleman dives for the corner. It's a fair try. Good work there from the centres and winger combining. Eddinghausen just getting outside Meninga. McGaw did everything right to give his winger the run to the line. Moving it from one side of the field to the other. Spina and Miller combining there. Miller just goes a little bit to the line, pulls in a bit of defence. Spina did really well there. And that was enough for Eddinghausen just to get Meninga on the outside. Into the hole goes McGaw. Ferguson had been drawn off his winger Coleman, and he spears over for the try.
Yeah, we have a look here. They run around by Laurie Spina. And as you said, Miller electing to pass before the line. We have a look here. Spina does very well to offload the football. Eddinghausen, they've just had the numbers. It's just a matter of drawn pass here, where McGaw does well. Chicken caught a bit out of position there. The try, a simple try to Coleman.
You could see Ferguson just drawn in as Meninga found Eddinghausen on the outside and McGaw, and that little bit of hesitation from Johnny Ferguson as he goes in. Meninga made the tackle, but Ferguson had left Coleman clear for that half a second. 4th try of the season to Glenn Coleman, back in first grade, and nothing a player likes more than scoring tries on the wing in first grade.
I thought that maybe Mal could have covered him up then.
Alan Wilson has the kicking duties. It's a very difficult one though on the 22, and it's swinging right across the face. Nowhere near for Alan Wilson. He seemed to have to rev himself up to try and get the distance and didn't have the accuracy. Cronulla 4, Canberra 0.
Well, preceding this was some good lead-up play from the tap kick. But here's the move that does. Watch O'Sullivan. This stops him. There's O'Sullivan on the left of the screen. Then he has to adjust himself again. Then the line starts to slide. Mal's looking after 2 guys here. He leaves ET, collects McGaw. Chicker got turned inside out, and Coleman's just strong enough at 11 stone just to get over the line.
Alan Wilson unable to add the extras. Of course, Cronulla have had a few kickers during the year. Matthew Corker, one of them more recently. He's out injured today, so Wilson has the kicking duties, but very experienced kicker. Penalty goes to Cronulla. Interference in the play of the ball. Referee signalling that the player's foot was grabbed.
We have a look here on replay. Wilson, he just won this penalty. If you have a look, he trying to get up to play the ball quick, but there, Wayne Collins there just hanging on too long.
Some big black clouds coming, John.
Yes, looks like it. It's cold enough to freeze them off you.
The snowy mountains aren't too far away.
And the tide of possession's turning, Warren. Cronulla getting a little bit more of the ball now. They certainly had none in the early stages, and the Raiders look very good.
The Raiders certainly look more likely to score the first points, but it's gone to Cronulla, that first try of the match. And now just 35 metres out again, the Sharks.
Easy yards being made by the Cronulla forwards, John, and it was something that Timmy Sheens would hope that he could steal his forwards up front.
Yeah, but in defence of the Raiders, All the Sharks forwards, Arthur. That big 5 makes it very hard to get back and come up in time.
The defence is a little bit soft still up front, I believe.
The penalty's 3-2 to Cronulla. They're helping. Miller gets his kick in, and Ferguson allows it over the touchline. Decided not to attempt to knock it back in case he conceded the scrum feed.
We have a look here, Gavin, just putting the little rubber in, the rolling end on in, and just beating Chicker into touch. Chicker allowing it to go into touch.
May have been hoping it was going to go dead in goal. Cronulla have broken from that scrum early. That should have been a penalty to the Raiders. But referee Ward on the blind side must have had his eye on the ball.
Well, even Michael Porter, he was the blindside prop. He was out of that scrum.
Well, he tried to get back into the scrum. He realised that he'd broken too early. Meninga. Well, Meninga seems to be running in the forwards a bit more today.
That was a great tackle there by Speechley. He's been out for a few weeks. He sustained a few head injuries, and it's hopeful that Michael Speechley can keep himself on the paddock for a few long periods. They've certainly missed his defence and his kicking game.
Stewart's kick down to Davidson. But plenty of green jerseys. Let's have a look at the metres gained, see whether that turnaround that Johnny Beard was talking about is there. Well, Canberra still have their heads in front, but it is starting to even up. Miller, short passes, good pass to Staines, picking up the 10 metres. That's skillful work. Docking out of a dummy half. Miller again with a short pass to Pappas this time. Gaffey tried to come in and lay one on him, but in the end they combined with Stewart to put him down. Wilson puts the kick through. McGaw overran him. Well taken by Belcher. Belcher almost acrobatic there. Carey stumbling through the tackle.
Spooner hurt in that tackle.
Oh, he's been having a difficult day with his defence. O'Sullivan couldn't get the pass away. Cronulla up inside the 5. Referee Ward was playing the advantage. Laurie Spooner getting some smelling salts. I think he copped a boot as he went in for that tackle.
Well, once again, he had his. We'll have a look here. We'll have a look at Spooner going in. No, it's a good shoulder charge there by Carey, so you have to give a rap to Carey there, but he did everything right, Laurie Spooner, except affect the tackle.
Laurie Spooner back on his feet. From the tap kick, it's Lazarus. Pulls out of one tackle. Gets the pass away, but it went forward. When Lazarus standing, trying to get the pass away, but in the end it just dragged forward.
Yeah, we have a look at Lazarus. He was holding up. He's in the wrong position. The ball just floating forward, but someone should have come a little bit earlier there in that situation. There was a try on.
Spooner to put the ball in. 32 metres out from the Sharks' goal line. Eddinghausen. Again he gets outside Meninga. Meninga is having troubles and he comes in from behind. He's a little angry, Mal Meninga. Eddinghausen has got outside him 3 times.
The problem with Mal is that he's 110 kilos, and for a big man, he has problems with his side-to-side defence.
Well, the old rule used to be try and stand outside your man and drive him back inside. I'm not too sure that doesn't quite go with sliding defences.
Well, in that situation, he just beat him to pace.
That's 3 times, and that must be starting to worry Meninga. You start to get a little bit hesitant after a while when you know a man keeps getting outside you like that.
Matthew Wood just showed how to handle McGaw too. McGaw went down with the shoulder.
Matthew Wood's going to be called out here. He was lying in to play the ball, but McGaw made absolutely no effort to play the ball correctly.
Well, he certainly extracted everything here. If you have a look here, a great tackle by Wood, but laying in the ruck here, we have a look, Ricky Stewart going over the top there. But if you have a look there, he really made a meal of that. Have a look at this. Like, I think the penalty could have went the other way for overacting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Surely there's a point at which, a player's got to make an attempt to play the ball correctly. That was ridiculous. I suppose Eddie Ward can show us in the rule book that he was right, but a bit of common sense says that penalty should have gone the other way. There's the local crowd. They weren't too happy. Plenty of boos coming from the grandstand. Alan Wilson will take the shot at goal. Scored 166 points in 1988, 125 in 89. So far this year, 6 tries and 34 goals. He's racking up the points once again. 92 so far for Wilson as he moves in. And this kick is good. The flags are up. So that's a bonus 2 points for Canberra. I wonder how costly it'll be later in the game. Still the boos coming from the back of the grandstand. 6-0 to the Sharks.
It's a big start for Cronulla. They're not playing well enough to overcome that deficit.
A few of the Cronulla fans have ventured the 3-hour drive or so from Sydney. Pappas loses the ball back and just gathered in by Docky. Pappas is hurt in that tackle, slowly to his feet. Here's Porter. Danny Lee.
Danny Lee making many yards up the ruck.
Good yards there, Arthur.
Lee looks a little more mobile. Maybe he's put a bit of work into his fitness in the last few weeks after a great start to the season. He seemed to go off the boil, but he seems a little bit sharper hitting it up today. Maybe like all the Sharks, he just realises that it's getting close to do or die in this competition for 1990. Here's Belcher. Belcher can't get away from Eddinghausen. Copybook tackle from E.T. Now Meninga spins it wide. O'Sullivan finds the Sharks moving up very quickly.
Yeah, Warren, the fullback then, Belcher, would have beaten an ordinary player then, but he's above ordinary. Old E.T.
Well, the crowd are reminding Eddie Ward of the Cronulla line not quite being back for 10 metres. They're going back with Eddie Ward, then moving up in front of him. O'Sullivan gets the pass away to Stewart. Meninga has some room to move. Miller comes across. Meninga, great pass, and Carey can't get his hands on it. Great work from Mal Meninga that time.
Well, once again, they had the numbers. A great short pass by Ricky Stewart here. Mal's being confronted here by Gavin Miller. But the pass just pops the pass out the side, and unfortunately, Carey couldn't grab hold of it.
You can see John Davidson breaking the golden rule. He left his wing. He didn't stay man-on-man with Carey, but if you're in John Davidson's position and you see Mal Meninga pulling away from Gavin Miller, what do you do?
Well, there's a bit of defence there. Also, Gary Belcher was on the inside in support.
Davidson tried to cut it off at Meninga, but in the end, if the pass had been taken, that was a try, begging to be scored.
Gee, they're effortlessly making overlaps down the sides, and that's 3 times that Davo has been confronted with numbers.
Funny thing is, it's Canberra making breaks down this side of the field, their right wing, and Cronulla making breaks on the right-hand side of the field for them. Belcher. Great to watch Gary Belcher step. He can do it off both feet. Meninga into the fray once more. Trying to pull away from Magor, but he holds on. 10 metres short of halfway, Bellamy. Wilson just slowing down the play the ball. Coyne. Pappas got some shoulder into that tackle, knocked him sideways, and Dan Staines finished him off. Now the penalty goes to Canberra. The crowd have been calling for some consistency. Staines was in the play the ball, and the penalty went to the Raiders.
Well, that was just tit for tat.
Laying on the ground in the ruck area.
Well, Cronulla getting a penalty there a few minutes ago. We have a look here, just laying. Danny Staines, I think, is genuinely hurt there, so a little bit stiff there.
In fact, you could say that should have been allowed to go on too, because the dummy half got his hands on the ball fairly cleanly. But you can't discount the effect of a crowd. They always make it that much harder. Here's O'Sullivan. Magor calling for support in defence. Lazarus up inside the 5. Both these teams have plenty of respect for the other's attack, and they're moving up too quickly.
Well, the crowd ensuring that Eddie Ward makes the right decision here. They're all inside the 5. He had no option there, Eddie Ward. He just had to give the penalty.
Speechley, Danny Lee.
You take your pick of any one of 10.
Half a dozen. But that's desperation in defence. They know that they just can't give an inch. This should be no trouble for Mal Meninga. He could throw this one over. Shot put it over. Canberra have won only one of their previous 5 matches against Cronulla. And Cronulla have made a good start here today.
John, just have a look at that cloud there, mate. You're going to have to get the dryers a bone on. I hope you've got one.
I borrowed one. I swapped my Reeboks for them.
Meninga has pushed it wide. Maybe he should have tried shot putting it. "6-0 to the Sharks." Meninga's missed 2 easy kicks.
Very pensive Tim Sheens there.
I've been surprised by Tim Sheens in the last few weeks. All the critics have been saying that Canberra playing below their best. I think Sheens would admit that. Here's a good run from Carey. Back to Collins. Collins still going. Good step to get away from one tackle. Quick play the ball. Lazarus puts it on the ground, but Carey picks it up well, but driven over the touchline. That's good work by McGaw, but he's hurt himself.
Well, I think that he could have penalised Mark McGaw. He leaned over here into the ruck area, knocking the ball down, so it could have been 6 more, but it was a great defence here by Mark McGaw. He got plenty of leg drive there and was taking Kerry over the sideline.
And Tim Sheens wouldn't be too happy. They're just getting a roll on Canberra, making easy yards, and the Cronulla defence has got to improve. Very soft up front.
Good work by Collins and Carey to make quick ground, and then Lazarus tried to keep it going with that pass. Cronulla leading the scrums 4-3. They have the feed and the loose head here, but the penalty goes to the Raiders. It's against Laurie Spooner. Eddie Ward wasn't happy the first time he put the ball in.
Well, looks like he's going to penalise Laurie Spooner here for feeding the second row. You know, I can't believe he's making this decision.
Gavin Miller shakes his head.
You know, if you have a look there, you could probably got Wayne Collins to feed across. Where else was he supposed to put it?
Collins clearly had feet across and kicked the ball back out of the tunnel. Lazarus loses it, or Gaffey loses it, I should say. So first tackle, the Raiders have handed it back.
He's got to take the rap for that decision. That was ridiculous.
It really was, wasn't it? Cronulla had the loose head and the feed. Spooner did his best to get the ball into the tunnel. It was kicked out by the Cronulla hooker, the Canberra hooker.
Like a game of touch in the forwards there, John.
Yeah, very slack, Arthur. Plenty of yards around, and the confidence of the players is lifting. Everyone wants to have a run with it.
McGaw was very deep. Speechley almost had to go right back for him. McGaw was 15 metres behind Speechley. Speechley with the kick. Down for Belcher. A little bit of room for Belcher once more. Good tackle there from Wilson.
We have a look at the mistake rates belying the scoreline. Cronulla 19 errors, 17 missed tackles. That's a whopper.
Lazarus. Well tackled there by Gavin Miller. Stewart has a run himself. So far, Ricky Stewart's been prepared to spin the ball out wide. One of the few times we've seen him have a run so far in the match. Lance. Meninga on the blind. Belcher comes from behind. Well tackled again by Miller. He was sealing up the blind side, and there was Dan Staines. The 2 second rows doing the defence. Stewart was thinking about the long kick, decided he'd put it high. Nobody wants it. Docking allows it to bounce. It's anyone's. Lazarus knocks it back. Gaffey. It's still the 5th tackle. And referee Ward still has his hand in the air signalling sloppy play by the Raiders in the end. They've lost ground. In fact, if anything, they're exactly where they started.
If Timmy Sheens wasn't worried before, he'd certainly be worried after that exhibition.
Well, the fire's gone right out of the Raiders after they started with plenty of keenness. Michael Porter just inside Canberra territory. Spooner almost through. Staines was there, but he just lost the ball.
A dangerous situation there. Laurie Spooner throwing the giant-sized dummy and finding half a hole. We have a look there. The ball just going down. Gaffey just knocking that ball down. So it could have been the restart of the tackle count, Nelly.
Spooner may have had the 6 more tackles, except he knocked on at the second attempt when he was on the ground picking it up. Canberra feed to this scrum. Let's see if Stewart can get the ball in. It screws around. Now that's the second time. Referee Ward won't be too happy about this.
He's holding the scrums down too long also. He's being consistent here. He's pulling...
You've got to give him
that. Yeah,
okay, that's fair enough. He's going to be consistent. It was clearly in the second row from Stewart, who couldn't get it in the first 2 times, decided he'd make sure it went in the third time. He probably felt that if he didn't get it in, he'd give away a penalty anyway.
Well, I'd be surprised if it was an edict from Eric Cox or Dennis Braybrook. Have a look here, it's definitely a second row feed there, but I'd say that it'd be a one-man band, John, in his efforts to clean up the scrums.
Well, that's the end of this game, if that's the way they want to continue.
Cleaning up the scrums are coming a bit late. 9 months too late.
20 years, 80 years.
Lee playing it, only 15 metres out. Miller up the middle. Miller has Docking alongside him, gets it to Staines. Staines taken from behind. Miller didn't know Docking was on his left. Docking would have scored. Speechley has it. Going himself. Good defence there coming in from behind. Gary Coyne. Lee takes it to the blind side. Stewart. Docking a dummy half. Puts a kick into the in-goal area. Ferguson playing on. The referee says the kicker wasn't taken out. And a good run from Johnny Ferguson, who's lost the boot. Got it back 20 metres from inside his own in-goal. That's a great run. Carey. Al Meninga. Crowd booing, but the Sharks are back 10. Confusion as Ricky Stewart wanted to pass, but he couldn't find a player in a position to take the ball. They're all on top of one another. Coyne, O'Sullivan. Danny Lee takes him on the inside of Speechley, who'd moved up outside. Belcher. Stewart. And John Davidson allows it to just trickle over the sideline. 4 minutes remaining till half-time.
Certainly not playing well, Canberra. They seem to be a little bit lost out there, John. There's no organisation. Their forwards aren't they're playing with any urgency at all.
No, I think they lost the plot early in the game, Arthur. They were playing well. They were rolling onto the ball with good control, and they're finding holes down the edges of the Cronulla defence. Their adjustments weren't good enough, Cronulla, but they've dropped off now because the weight of possession has turned the Sharks' way.
There's Laurie Spina in centre field. Pappas. Pappas coming into the team when Luke Massey had to pull out. Spina calls for it again. Has plenty of men outside. Speechley for Magor. Eddinghausen's there. Has Coleman. Good work from the back line. Docking. You can hear the calls from behind him. 15 metres out. Wilson. Good tackle from Dean Lance. Took him head on, ball and all. Only 10 metres out, it's the 5th tackle. Speechley kicks across field. It's anyone's ball. Davidson can't handle it. And Carey, knowing that it came off John Davidson's hand, just allows it to run over the touchline. That will be a handover because that came off Cronulla.
Yeah, it's a bit of pot luck here. Anything could have happened here, but it could have been a very dangerous situation for Canberra. The ball just going back into touch off the Davidson.
And on the first tackle, Cronulla up inside the 5. We haven't seen the tackle count get to the 5th tackle very many times in this first half.
Once again in that set of play there, they found room out on the right-hand side, Cronulla.
Gaffey runs into his opposite number, Miller, and Pappas there too. Pappas and Miller leading the tackle count for Cronulla. Lazarus and Coyne for Canberra. Switch of play from Stewart. O'Sullivan, Meninga has Belcher. Inside Speechley, back to O'Sullivan. O'Sullivan running into a sea of blue jerseys. There's no green support for him in that direction. Stewart, out it goes to Bellamy. Sights a little opening. Wood. Matthew Wood is still going. A good tackle from Porter and he loses the ball forward. Ricky Stewart picks it up, but the scrum will pack for the knock on.
Yeah, once again Canberra here mounting a bit of pressure, but letting the steam off by just dropping the ball. Could have retained possession. There was definitely a try on.
Yeah, they can still stick a try on, Arthur. They can move the ball around well, can't they?
Oh, that was a great move there from Belcher and Meninga.
Yeah, terrific hands by Mal. But it's like just instinct, you know, he's outside your Belcher. He's a great player.
Well, they have played together for a number of years. You're talking about good South and Brisbane. going back 8 years.
Cronulla leading 6-0. Only a minute till half-time. Miller calls for it. Too wide of the ruck and has a run himself this time.
Gavin getting a bit wider today too. He's mixing his game up fairly well.
Yeah, I would encourage him to do that, Arthur. I think if he can get even 2 balls wide and cart a little across field, get this defence sliding, then bring players on the inside of him, that would certainly break the Raiders line.
Miller gets his kick in on the 5th tackle. Pulled to ground just as he got the boot to it. Ferguson gathers. Battling with Coleman. Cronulla in that last set of 6 seemed prepared to just steady things down and go into half-time with a handy 6-0 lead. Glenn Lazarus.
I'd imagine Coach Fitzgibbons will be very happy with that lead. They're not playing well enough to peg them back. Canberra.
I think he'd really like the defence tightened up too, Arthur.
Meninga with a chance just on half-time. Now Meninga into open space, away from Speechley. Carey inside, he takes on jogging. Still going is the juggernaut, but he's finally knocked over by Laurie Spina. Play on, no, knock on. Knock on right on half-time. Laurie Spina finally got Mal Meninga. And didn't he have to? He was the last line of defence. Meninga had swatted him out of his road.
Certainly put himself on the line there.
Great work by the halfback who's had to do some work. He's come face to face with Meninga a number of times. At half-time, Cronulla lead Canberra 6 points to 0.
From the national capital, Canberra, you're watching round 19 of the Winfield Cup, live around Australia on ABC Sport. Today, a special welcome to Rockhampton in central Queensland, another rugby league stronghold, where in their group competition, the major semi-final will be played tomorrow.
And in that semi-final, Railways play Yeppoon. The winner will meet Brothers in the grand final. Further west of Rockhampton, the referees don't muck around. In last weekend's game between Barcaldine and Blackall, the referee sent all 26 players to the sin bin. It must have been very crowded. Well, of all the things a player faces in his career, the inevitable one is retirement. Canberra's Dean Lance thought about it last year, decided to come back for one more season, while it seems the whole concept of leaving the game has slipped the mind of Johnny Ferguson.
For a player considering retirement, most would say the perfect way to bow out would be in a premiership winning side. For Dean Lance, that dream came true last year when Canberra scored the memorable grand final win over Balmain in extra time. But while that winning feeling may be the perfect note to end a career on, as Lance was intending to do, it's also the perfect reason to stick around.
Loaded the pass away to Jackson. Jackson, oh, he could have put the pass away. He mightn't need to. Jackson, and they have won the 1989 grand final. How incredible.
You know, you might have seen the interview after the grand final when someone said, are you going to retire? And I said, yeah, this is it, you know, it's the top of the mountain. But, you know, I'm not sorry that I decided to stay on. I'm enjoying the year so far. It's had its ups and downs, but it's been enjoyable. To win the grand final as a team, you know, it was obviously the Raiders' best season. And personally, myself, it was a season that I look back on and, you know, think that I played a big part in it, and I think it'd be one of my best seasons as well, yeah.
Right, what a great tackle that was. Dean Lance really read that to perfection.
I wasn't here in the bad old days, 82 and 83, but we came in 84 and, you know, we got made the playoffs to the semi-finals that year, and, you know, it wasn't a bad year, but we had a couple of lean years in 85 and 86, but, you know, I've seen the ups and
in the country town of Narrabri, last year's win in the grand final rates as the highlight of Dean Lance's career. From club football in Newcastle, Lance wore the blue and white of Newtown before moving to Canberra, and from 5'8" to the forwards. But despite losing the captaincy last season after 3 years at the helm, Lance is still seen by many as an inspiration to the side.
I don't know about inspiration, but you know, sort of leading them from the front, I suppose. Not go on, you guys, get up there, but come on, follow me type of thing. Yeah, that's the sort of a thing that I'm pretty proud of in my game. I get in and have a go.
I'd like to thank Dean Lance as well. He's a great captain, and thank you, Canberra.
Dean has always been there for encouragement, and also I've been able to approach Dean, and we could always talk about you know, what I've been doing wrong and what I can always improve on.
Talking about retiring, and you see someone like John Ferguson still running around at 36, what's your impression of him?
I love him. Chicka's probably the most exciting player I've ever seen with a football, and you know, to see him running around at 36, it makes me feel young. I like playing with him.
Chicka says he'll probably retire at the end of the year, but you can't be sure about someone who scores the most vital try of his career at 35.
It's Ferguson! Ferguson will score! No, yes!
And his secret for staying so agile?
Staying away from blokes like Blocker Roach and Greg Dowling helps a lot.
That he scored over 100 tries doesn't faze the elusive winger. Enjoying the game ranks high and wide over statistics. What has it been about the game that's kept you coming back season after season after season?
Sometimes I wonder. Probably the enjoyment of... it's not stale. I mean, every game, every weekend, you're not doing exactly the same thing. Every game's different. And, I suppose that's the attraction to me and being a part of it.
Club, state and country, Ferguson's represented them all. And while he's keen to spend more time with his family and perhaps a warmer climate, Lance has made it clear he'd like to become a part of Canberra's future professional setup. Whether or not 1990 will be the final year for these two Raiders, both will be remembered as two of the most likeable characters in the game. A win in this year's grand final would provide the perfect exit, but then again, it might just be the perfect reason to stick around.
The old pro got the ball down. As Dean Lance said, there's nothing more exciting than watching Johnny Ferguson score a try, and there's nothing more stationary than someone stopped by a Dean Lance hit. Well, last night, Balmain finished off North Sydney for 1990. The Tigers defeated the Bears 14 points to 6, and with what's left of 4 rounds to go to the semi-finals, 8 teams still count themselves contenders for the final 5. Let's take a look at some of last weekend's action, where Parramatta stayed alive, sneaking in against North Sydney.
It was a neck-and-neck struggle at North Sydney, where both teams scored 2 tries. The match could have gone either way. With 9 minutes to go and down 12-10, the Bears decided against kicking for penalty goal to go for a try. They gambled on a win rather than settle for a draw, but failed, much to the Eels' relief. Cronulla, just outside the 5, were down 4-0 at half-time against St George. The second half belonged to Dragon fullback Darren South, who ran from inside his own in-goal to the other end. St George carved up the Sharks, scoring 5 sparkling tries to 1 intercept in their 28-6 smashing of Cronulla's semi-final aspirations. Newcastle leapt into equal second place with a 34-2 demolition of Wests at Campbelltown, inspired by Ashley Gordon and Jeff Doyle. In the forwards, Tony Butterfield and Mark Glanville were far too powerful for the Magpies. At Lang Park, Brisbane put one hand firmly on the minor premiership as they beat Balmain for the first time in 6 matchups. Tigers coach Warren Ryan significantly conceded the Brisbane forwards, doubted in the past, gained more yardage than any other opposition against Balmain this year in the 30-16 victory. The Broncos' smiles faded on Monday when the front page of Sydney's Daily Mirror blazed the news 2 Brisbane players had tested positive in a random drugs test. Broncos manager John Rebo refused to comment. So did New South Wales League General Manager John Quayle, who said it was the league's policy to neither confirm nor deny claims about drugs. Chairman Ken Utherson obviously didn't think that was the policy. He confirmed the story and said the drugs were in the non-performance enhancing category too, which includes marijuana. It, if anything, reduces performance. Previous policy kept that category between the player and his club. Monday's events raised important questions of confidentiality. When the 6 Broncos were originally tested, they were named in the next day's papers. 3 weeks later, 4 innocent players are slurred by the anonymous guilt of the other 2, possibly to the interest of the police. Secondly, who leaked the story to the newspaper? Was it the Broncos? Unlikely. Was it someone at the league? Was it the drug testing agency in Sydney? To Thursday, and eastern suburbs and the league announced that of 40 Roosters tested, 5 were positive to Category 2 drugs, but not to steroids or cocaine. That's not surprising, because cocaine only remains in your system 48 hours, whereas marijuana byproducts can be detected 6 weeks or more later. While it's been clumsy, the league should be commended for tackling the problem head-on. It's now drawing up guidelines for next season, guided by the experiences of the AFL, Olympic and American sports.
What worries me is that the league's zeal is based more on their desired moral image of the game rather than a concern for health and at the expense of individual rights. Virtually everyone believes the league has the right to stamp out performance-enhancing drugs. They're a form of cheating and some are a serious health risk. Of course, virtually everyone concedes that society would be better off without any drugs at all. But the problem is, how do you deal with these Category 2 drugs, recreational or social, if you like? It's not clear-cut.
And Rugby League, with its acceptance of sponsorship money from tobacco and alcohol companies, is hardly in a position to set itself up as a de facto lawmaker, judge and police force, the all-encompassing Big Brother. Many pharmacologists believe alcohol and nicotine are more harmful than marijuana or even heroin, amazing as that seems. The difference is pot in particular is illegal, whereas grog and smokes are publicly acceptable. Now, Jack Gibson has been quoted as saying marijuana reduces motivation. Studies suggest that's true, but only where it's used excessively and habitually. If you're convicted of possession of marijuana, you'll probably pay less than a parking or speeding fine.
Yet the league are talking about a 10-week suspension for a first offence and life for a second offence. Now, where will it all end, this policing by the league? Will they introduce random breath testing of players and officials as they leave the league's club on a Sunday night? Will they suspend players who are caught drink driving? Will they ban smoking? Why not go further? What will they do with a player caught illegally betting with an SP bookmaker? Where does the league's policing begin and end?
The AFL don't include marijuana in their testing, and the National Basketball League won't when they begin testing next year. I believe the league is getting off its patch and becoming a victim of its own good intentions. After hundreds of tests now, only one result has been a major problem. One player has tested positive to cocaine, none at all to steroids. Now that's a good record, yet the league has brought on itself a welter of bad publicity when it should leave marijuana to the laws of society in general while conducting a drug awareness cum counselling program through the clubs.
Well, it's a difficult problem, but you've just heard what I think about it. Arthur, what's your opinion?
Well, it's certainly opened a Pandora's box, Warren, and it's certainly publicity that league can do without, so they've got their problems, they've got to sort it out.
But do you think that they should be testing for marijuana?
Well, I don't think they should. I firmly believe that, and I think they've really opened a Pandora's box, and the Rugby League don't know what to do about it. Simple as that.
Well, I guess the main point is that there's got to be a lot of thought go into it, not just knee-jerk reaction. OK, let's get back to the action on the field here down at Bruce Stadium. Let's have a look at the half-time statistics. And there they are, the scrum, 6-3 to the Sharks. No tight heads. The penalties have gone to Canberra. They got a few just before half-time. The error count mainly consists of missed tackles by Cronulla and poor passes, poor handling by Canberra. And the overall tackling, well, Canberra have had to get through a bit more work. Metres gained. Quick look. Canberra, 887. Cronulla, 824. Time in possession, 17 minutes for Canberra and 21 for Cronulla. Everything ready to go for the second half. And I would think that Tim Sheen's had a few words to say to the green machine during the break.
Well, the defences have certainly been very ordinary.
Mal Meninga just stretching out that hamstring. The second half underway. The breeze still blowing basically across the field. Fairly stiff, but we saw in the first half it didn't seem to have a marked advantage one way or the other.
Both sides experiencing problems on their right centres. So
Well, I wonder what the coaches did have to say. Johnny Peard.
Well, Coach Fitzgibbon in the Cronulla room, Warren, he's very concerned about the defence. They're slipping off a lot of tackles. He's really thrown it straight back onto the players. 40 minutes and we can proceed with this season. In the other room, Tim Sheen's a little excited about the number of breaks they're making, but very disappointed they're breaking down. He wants more control.
It's interesting the point you make there, John, with Tim Sheen's saying he's pretty happy about some of the breaks, even if they're not being finished off. In recent weeks, while Tim Sheen's has conceded the Raiders aren't playing quite their best, he doesn't seem to have been quite as critical of his team's performance as a lot of other people. I know that they've got injuries, but he doesn't seem quite as worried as most people seem to be about their form.
No, he's got a lot of faith in his players, and he's pretty confident today, Warren. He thinks, you know, if they can just eliminate those errors, they're making enough breaks, especially down that tram line area, 10 yards either side of the sidelines, to win a game. If they can just settle down a little bit, back up and eliminate those errors.
Good kick there from Ricky Stewart. Maybe Tim Sheen's is trying to talk his team up rather than talk them down. I'm sure in the long run the Raiders will be firing again, and this man is a player who always keeps them in a game.
Beautiful kick there, low trajectory, just holding up into the breeze.
Cronulla just 10 metres out from their own line. I wonder what the policy will be with the scrums in the second half. A good shove there from the pack of Cronulla. Plenty of weight, and Speechley breaks through the tackle of Belcher, but couldn't go too much further.
See the top defensive players, Glenn Nazareth, who's having a good game with 20. We have Gavin Miller, surprisingly, leading the tackle count for Cronulla.
Plenty of good tackling efforts there from the forwards. Just looking at that missed tackle count that has mounted quite significantly against Cronulla. Admittedly, Canberra have put together a few good plays, but a couple of missed tackles. Our statsman Graham Roberts says coming from Dan Staines and Arthur Pappas. Admittedly, Pappas is also making a lot of tackles.
Well, I think they're getting caught out wide, Danny Staines and Arthur Pappas, and what happens against a side like Canberra, you just have to fill in defence, and they do shift the ball so quickly against you.
Ferguson through the line. Crowd immediately on their feet. Good tackle by Spina once more in the second line of defence to stop it when it looked dangerous. Here's Ricky Stewart having a run, bearing his play. Halfbacks have to keep the outside defence guessing by occasionally having a run. Gary Coyne. Back it goes to O'Sullivan.
Cronulla a bit reluctant to move up both sides also, John.
Yep, this is bringing them undone. Gee, there's some yards out there.
Fifth tackle.
Their adjustments aren't the best either. They're getting forwards caught wide, as you mentioned, but here's some yards for Ricky Stewart.
And a good chip through by Stewart. It's the last tackle. He couldn't regather. Docking had come to the ball and put some pressure on Stewart, but that was a great piece of thinking by Ricky Stewart. He decided to run, then put the short kick over rather than the deep one.
He put into space there, and unfortunately couldn't pick it up because he had support.
Close thing.
Well, Docking forced to come out from his line and put pressure on Stewart.
Funny thing about that first half was that Eddinghausen was... Here's Laurie Spina, who has been dangerous today as well in attack. In the first half, Eddinghausen was managing to get outside Meninga a couple of times and create some opportunities. And then Mal Meninga seemed to be getting outside Mark Magore a couple of times.
Well, strangely, it's contrary to belief because the ball, you move the ball left to right and they say that's a harder side. Normally it's right to left, so that's against the grain.
It's also against the pretty strong defensive players like Mal Meninga and Mark Magore, which are usually very tight. Another good kick sends Carey scurrying back, but nothing he can do. Michael Speechley's very accurate with the boot today.
Yeah, Michael Speechley just putting the ball in, rolling end on end and straight over the touchline.
6 points to 0 in favour of the Sharks. A try and a penalty goal. Try early on to Glenn Coleman, and he just got over in the corner after Canberra had started the game on top.
Once again, Canberra making a mistake there. Chris O'Sullivan coughing that ball up. Expensive mistake, it could be.
It'll have to be the third or fourth time they've lost the ball on the first or second tackle.
Yeah, well, Timmy Sheens did mention that at half-time, that turnovers on tackles 1 and 2 are really counting against the Raiders.
Alan Wilson breaks to the blind side. Now the Raiders' defence will have to be tight. Spina couldn't find a runner, had to go himself. 10 metres out. Porter. Porter winding up and he's still going, keeping him at bay with a big bend. Wilson goes for the line. Can he get through Carey? Has he got the ball down? Referee Ward says yes. The try to Cronulla. It carries them to 10-0. A very important try early in the second half. Determination from Porter first of all. He thrust out his right arm here to keep them at bay, pushed two away to drag them all in, took a bit of pressure away, and then Alan Wilson gets the pass as 3 Raiders land on the ground. He takes on Carey, went underneath him and just got the ball down.
I'd like to see this on replay. It looks like he might have dropped this. We have a look here. Porter going out from the dummy half position. A very strong fellow, Porter, palming off a few blokes. Gaffney should have locked him up here, but he didn't. Offloading the ball to Wilson. From this close out, Wilson just putting his head down. We'll have a look here to see whether he's dropped that football. We can't see that. We have a look at here. There's a possibility he could have dropped this football. Here's the handoff. Wilson going down. We won't see it from this situation, I don't think. We have a look here. Well, that ball might have popped out. I don't know.
It was dropping. I don't know whether there was a hand on it as it hit the ground or not. I guess we'll have to give Alan Wilson the benefit of the doubt, and the referee, and his touch judge, who probably gave him a wink. Wilson has a difficult attempted conversion, how he'd love to put it over. Only a couple of metres in from touch. He hits it firmly, but it's wide. So the score remains 10-0, but a good lead to the Sharks.
Well, here's Porter in the last stages of that try, holding 3 at bay, and he flips a little left-handed pass back to Wilson. This is his specialty. He's strong and keeps low to the ground. And there he is, putting the ball down. It's a try because I live at Cronulla.
Because what?
I live at Cronulla.
I thought maybe on that last replay it just popped out the back of the crooked elbow.
No way.
Either way, a very difficult decision, and it was very strong work from Porter and Wilson. Cronulla with this 10-0 lead, and the Raiders have plenty of work ahead of them now.
Warren, that was almost a try that wasn't. Gavin Miller turned his back, telling the forwards to knock it into centre field. Porter took off from dummy half and had support in Wilson. See, they come when you least expect them, tries.
And the penalty paid by Canberra losing the ball so early in the tackle count.
Yes, that's a contributing factor.
Carey now, the man who wasn't able to prevent Wilson getting the ball over the line. Belcher. The crowd, 10,900 people here. 10,990. And I'm sure all of them are going to go home very quickly after this game and stand in front of the fire for a while. Chris O'Sullivan.
I don't think the forwards are doing the job, John. He's going to have to make some replacements here shortly. There's no urgency at all amongst the forwards. Belcher there looking for a forward to give it to, and not one inside.
Yeah, I think they've got to do the simple things, Arthur. I think they can play off the back of that. If they can do the simple things, I think they can build momentum. They've got the back line to finish things off, but they've probably got the wrong way around at the moment.
Well, that happens sometimes when you're moving the ball such as Canberra do. You forget about taking the ball up the middle.
Yeah, well, there has been some holes, but Cronulla's been good enough to scramble and plug them up.
And as we said last week, when Canberra forwards didn't make any impact on Canterbury, how are they missing Bradley Clyde?
Yeah, he's a guy that can make a break. He constantly takes the ball up, and he's got a little bit of a swerve and a good, very strong round the hip area.
They're also missing Daly too, because not only is he such a strong runner, he's a strong defensive player also.
Eddinghausen loses it back and docking in all sorts of trouble. I'm sure they wouldn't mind having Steve Walters out there either. Eddinghausen says, let's get it down the other end of the field. We're in front, let's play it down their end. Belcher quickly accelerates back to halfway. So in the end, the kick only gained 15 metres. Quick work by Belcher to get it back. Meninga through the middle. It's been a better performance from Mal Meninga today. Coyne.
It's the best Mal's played for a while. He tends to be a ball distributor at times, but today he's really been running, particularly in that first half.
Ricky Stewart forced to go by himself, but Cronulla up inside the 5. Referee Ward coming right over towards Mark McGaw.
Well, he told Mark McGaw to stay out of it, but Mark McGaw, there's no replay, but definitely inside the 5 metres.
Referee Ward playing the advantage, holding up the penalty until he was sure that Canberra were going nowhere.
Well, it's an expensive penalty also on the 4th tackle.
And they weren't going anywhere. Ricky Stewart had taken the tackle. Now Canberra, as the crowd tries to lift the premiers. Gaffey trying to drive his way through on the 22. Collins inside for Wood. He can't get past Dan Staines. He nailed him then. Also Lee. Carey from dummy half. A good strong tackle from Wilson. Pappas was underneath. Working the moves in the middle to Meninga. Meninga through the first tackle, but Laurie Spina got him again. Lance. Belcher. O'Sullivan in space. Can he get it down? That's a try to the Raiders. Docking couldn't stop him. Struggling to hold him up. But O'Sullivan put into the gap and he made no mistake. Some relief machines. Canberra hit back. They are still down though, 10 points to 4. Moving it wide. They did it well here, Canberra. Short passing. Belcher threw in Eddinghausen, put O'Sullivan into the gap. Docking tried to stop him, did pretty well Docking, but just couldn't stop O'Sullivan.
It was just a result of hitting the ball up the middle. Mal Meninga drew them all in. The ball goes from Dean Lance. Belcher just draws Eddinghausen here, and O'Sullivan's got the easy task, just putting the ball down over the line. They just had too many numbers out wide there.
Chris O'Sullivan has had an unhappy year with injuries. He was hospitalised with blood poisoning from a knee cut in June, but he seems to be getting back to his best. Well, if Alan Wilson's kick a couple of minutes back was important because it would have taken Cronulla to a 12-0 lead, 2 converted tries, well, this is equally important for Mal Meninga because he can get them within range. It's out wide, he hits it well, and the flags are up. Great kick under pressure from Meninga. He's had a good year with the boot, 49 goals in all before that one. So that brings up the half century and Cronulla lead 10-6.
Well, this is the Raiders especially, moving the ball wide after a good midfield break, and Mal Meninga supplied the break up the centre. Here's Gary Belcher dummying once and twice, and Chris O'Sullivan's good enough to force his way over.
Chris O'Sullivan, as the crowd once more start to get on their feet. Gary Belcher dummy just turned a good chance of a try into a certain chance of a try. Just pulled the defence off O'Sullivan. Now can the Raider forwards start to rev up? Glenn Lazarus is the man. He really is the leader when it comes to bulk and power. Meninga's decided to lead from the front too. And a good pass to O'Sullivan. O'Sullivan going wide. Taken in another good tackle by Laurie Spina, who's made some great cover defending tackles. How many times have we called it? Gary Coyne. The Raiders have woken up from the look of that first 3 hits.
Well, they're hitting the ball up here. The forwards are doing the hard work.
Stewart tries to take full advantage, and that's a really good kick. A great kick from Ricky Stewart. Glenn Coleman was sprinting back, but could get nowhere near it and had gone from one end of the field to the other in 4 tackles.
Here's a great kick once again by Ricky Stewart. You get sick of saying it, but this just happens. It's rolling end on end, and 9 times out of 10 they roll into touch. The Canberra's certainly on a roll here, and Cronulla are going to have to regroup.
You've got to give it to Lazarus, who took it up the first time, and then Mal Meninga, the skipper, came in and said, give me the ball, I'm going to try and lead us forward. Cronulla have got the ball. And Wilson finds space on the blind side. The defence was asleep. No one there except for Johnny Ferguson, the winger. Good work by Wilson to see it.
It shows you, Warren, how damaging those penalties can be against defensive sides. Both were defending for 3 or 4 rucks, and Canberra just received a penalty and put a try on the 3rd or 4th ruck. So a replica of Cronulla's first try after half-time.
Yes, very damaging. Here's Beachley's kick. It looks pretty good. Belcher going back, the ball trickling towards the touchline, and the touch judge has his flag in the air. Belcher picked it up on his fingertips, touch judge said no, it touched the white line.
We have a look here, rolling end on end, just laying there. Gary Belcher coming back to pick it up, going towards the sideline. Well, who knows?
Well, so close. The ball may have just touched the white line. In fact, Gary Belcher may have almost pushed it onto the white line, and if that had been the case, it would have been a scrum feed to Cronulla. The ball raked back, and it's a sharp ball against the head. It was in the back row of the Raiders. Here's Docking. Now, that one should have been one. Chance for Cronulla. Speechley. Only a couple of metres out. Spina trying to organise his back line. Porter got confused. There were too many calls out there. Danny Lee was trying to take it on the blind. This time Spina gets it. Miller. McGaw. It was there for Eddinghausen, but knocked down by Meninga and 6 more tackles. McGaw was trying to get the pass back to Eddinghausen. Here's Pappas. So more pressure now for the Raiders. They're going to have to hold out for another 5. Spina can't get away from Bellamy. Just 10 metres out. Water. Scheming is Speechley, but a great tackle from Lazarus. He just targeted and nailed Dan Staines. Lee. Lee on the blind side. Bustling his way to the line. Plenty of strength from Danny Lee. They're only 3 metres out as Miller comes across. It's the 5th tackle. Miller wants it. His kick has deflected and is taken by Gary Coyne. Quick pass to Belcher. A breakaway from Belcher, stepping. On it goes to Bellamy. Great football. And Bellamy takes the tackle. But that is superb football from the Raiders. They got the break when the kick went to Coyne, but didn't they take advantage?
Also great defence from Canberra there. They had to soak up a lot of pressure and they withstood that, and now we see what they're like in break and play. Like Belcher, just the greatest football carrier, the greatest fullback you can have.
There's no predicting which direction Gary Belcher's going to step. Collins.
Once again, we see the missed tackles from Cronulla there. 31, it's just coming more and more, and it's a big problem for Alan Fitzgibbons.
That's a good kick too, but it's going to bounce dead in goal. It looked as if it was going to hold up in the field of play for some time. Then it trickled into the in-goal area, then it kept going from Ricky Stewart.
Once again, he's kicking here for field position, but it just goes over the dead ball on. He was hoping that he would have had to cart this out, Docking, and didn't have to, so the result is a 22 tap.
That must be the one piece of Bruce Stadium that Ricky Stewart doesn't know. "30 metres out with Porter. Canberra won 6 straight games towards mid-season, but they've been fairly patchy since then. They're down by 4 points. In equal second place. A win isn't essential, but it would be very, very useful for the Raiders. McGaw, Eddinghausen. Loose ball on the ground for Speechley, but it went forward. Cronulla equals 6th on the ladder on 22 points. They need 3 more wins this season to make the semis.
We just have a look there. Eddinghausen just trying to offload the ball, pushing the pass, just knocking it on.
O'Sullivan gets it to Belcher. Meninga was the decoy. Out it goes to Wood. Well read by McGaw. Beautiful diving tackle. Ferguson on the blind. Goes away from the touchline. Wood beats Wilson. Bellamy. But he's hitting a good hit. Good strong tackle there by Porter. Stewart. Short passes to Gaffey. Another tackle from Pappas. Meninga. Low pass for Collins. He was always going to have trouble taking that.
Yeah, it was never on. I was surprised the ball came that way because the ball should have went the other way. The forwards were there to do the work, but they just had the numbers. It forced Mal Meninga to cut back into the forwards.
John Davidson is the only Cronulla player on that side of the field. All of them spread right across to the commentary side of the ground.
Last 5 minutes, John, Canberra's defence has tightened up a little bit.
Yes, Arthur, I can't believe that Cronulla's still hanging in this game. But when you look at the error rates, 39-14 and 33 missed tackles amongst it. It's Cronulla's got to really look at their defence, really tighten it up.
Yeah, great pressure there from Glenn Lazarus, forcing Michael Speechley to put that ball over the sideline.
Out on the full, 6 tackles for the Raiders now. Starting from halfway. Stewart, Wood. Pappas again making the tackle. He really is getting through some work. Canberra have had to make more tackles all up. 172 versus 131. Coyne. Back it goes to O'Sullivan. O'Sullivan's the link in a lot of moves, isn't he?
I think they've missed Laurie Daly in that area. He's much more effective.
O'Sullivan's probably just as good with his hands, but Daly, far more dangerous runner.
We have Steve Mills warming up on the sideline, number 40.
Belcher. Belcher still going, trying to get rid of Eddinghausen. Luckily for Eddinghausen, there was help in Davidson and Spina. Stewart, the long ball for Meninga. Meninga decides to go to the defence himself. Back it goes to Stewart. They've got the numbers once Belcher chimed in. Stewart, backwards he goes and decides to put it up. Waiting underneath is Docking. It's anyone's ball, and Docking came up with it.
I'm surprised there. I thought Eddie Ward was going to play the advantage, and real Cronulla offside. He was going over to the whole back line of Cronulla was offside.
Cronulla find themselves back down there, their goal line. There's a replacement warming up, Steve Mills. 6'4", 100 kilograms. He is a monster. Wilson. Good tackle, Lazarus. And it's the 5th tackle. Cronulla have only made about 12 metres in that 5 tackles. Speechley gets his kick in. That was the most important thing.
It's a good ploy by Sheens bringing Mills on.
That's a good kick from Speechley. Got it over the head of Belcher. Belcher's got some room. And Ferguson positioned himself beautifully. Ferguson. Great run. Coleman seems to have hurt himself in the tackle. Belcher. Pass out to Meninga. Could have been forward. Play on. Meninga takes on Eddinghausen, but ET makes the tackle. We've seen some great tackling in cover defence today. Gary Coyne on the burst. Good run. Back it goes to Bellamy. Meninga. Meninga needs a winger. He hasn't got one. Taken by Spina again. How many times has Meninga and Spina run into each other? Stewart goes across field. Floats it out. Davidson takes the intercept. It was great football by the Raiders, but Davidson has finally stopped it. Glenn Coleman receiving attention in the back play.
We've got a couple of Cronulla forwards down, Wilson and also Speechley down, so it might be time for Cronulla to bring on a couple of replacements.
Yeah, Chris Quinn on the sideline, number 40. He looks like he could go on for Glenn Coleman.
Rib damage for Wilson. Coleman has left the field. He did well, Coleman, because he was injured back upfield near the halfway line, but he realised that desperate defence was needed, and he's run 40 metres to help out making the tackle on Meninga. Out on the full. That's two kicks out on the full.
No, they don't deserve to be in this game. Really, some of the errors they're making in the second half. 2 kicks out in the full. The defensive line is just not moving up, allowing Canberra all the latitude in the world.
44 errors for Cronulla against 15 for Canberra. So far, Cronulla haven't paid. Here's Gaffey. Coyne. Taken well by Pappas. Stewart. O'Sullivan. Belcher. Puts a kick in for Ferguson. Flying past Quinn. Quinn trying to get back. Ferguson can't catch the ball. It almost bounced up into his arms. Not quite, but beautifully laid on. Belcher and Ferguson worked it out.
It's a good ploy here by Belcher, knowing that Chris Quinn, Ferguson certainly got the pace on Quinn here, and it's evident here if we have a look here. If that ball stayed in touch, a certain try.
Ferguson would have taken it if it had stayed in the field of play, but he had to reach out and keep his feet just inside the line. He didn't quite have the balance and the reach to pull it in.
Mills on for Bellamy, Warren.
So Craig Bellamy leaving the field has worked pretty hard out there for the Raiders. And Mills, number 40, the man on top in that tackle there. Staines runs into Mills and he makes his second tackle. See the height of the man, very tall player. 3 tackles in a row to Steve Mills, so he's already made an impact.
Also Mark Bell coming on too, going to the sideline.
The ball lost backwards, the referee says it was okay.
Wilkinson warming up for Cronulla.
Yeah, I think Danny Staines might be the one to come off there, Arthur. Another bad kick.
Mills had it, lost it.
That was a terrible kick, that ball coming off Danny Staines there. Actually, there's real the change over here, and Cronulla are just standing around, not organising the defence.
They're on the rack, I think.
Out it comes, O'Sullivan. Cronulla, such a disciplined team normally, just haven't been organised at all in the last 10 minutes. Lance, their defence is hanging on, you've got to give them credit.
They're short out to the right, Warren.
And they know it, Eddinghausen is screaming. Collins has a run himself. The defence is set pretty well now, they seem to be well spread. What will Canberra do? Coyne goes to the line. Back it comes to Gaffey. Gaffey shrugs off the tackle. On the ground it is, and Spina gets back to cover it up. Gaffey shrugged Spina off, but then Spina got back on his feet and collected the loose ball.
I think it just highlights the shortcomings Canberra forward have got. We have a look here, Gaffey going in, trying to offload this ball back on the inside, but we have a look, Eddinghausen coming in, the ball trickling forward. Laurie Spina there hit by a great tackle by Gary Belcher.
We usually say that Canberra are such a composed team with the experience of the grand final win under their belt, but I'm not taking full advantage of the opportunities here. It's the 5th tackle. Speechley's kick down the centre of the field. Belcher takes it on his leg. There's Michael Wilkinson, number 25. Dan Staines is the man who's been replaced. Ferguson. Quick play the ball. Mills. Well taken by McGraw around the legs. Miller over the top. And Pappas. Coyne runs into Wilkinson and Danny Lee. Miller again helping out in the tackle. Miller doing plenty of hard work. O'Sullivan kicking for Ferguson again. Ferguson screaming through, this time Docking is across. Ferguson has got the pace on Chris Quinn, that's for sure, particularly with Quinn having to turn around. Wilkinson has a run. Now it's with Quinn. Lazarus.
Much improved effort from Lazarus today. Good yards and some terrific defence in the second half.
He certainly led the way for the Raiders.
Lee. Cronulla leading Canberra 10 points to 6. There's 11 minutes remaining on the clock. Gavin Miller changes direction, gets a wobbly kick in. There's plenty of chasers down there. The ball was touched and Spina thinks he's onside, and he is. The ball was touched by a Canberra player, so they're all onside. They move it wide, away from where the defence was, and O'Sullivan cut down by Speechley. Right on the halfway. Ferguson. This will be a very valuable win for Cronulla if they can hang on. They've conceded the penalty up inside the 5. Not only will it keep Cronulla in touch with the final 5, but there are 3 games to come home with: Canterbury, Illawarra and East. 3 very winnable games for the Sharks.
You have a look there, Wayne Collins going for the dummy half. The Cronulla players disorganised in defence, not back to 5 metres. Amazing that they've held on for so long.
Certainly have had to do some defending in their own territory in the last 15 minutes. Canberra surely must score a try if they can hold this ball for 6 tackles. They've had so many opportunities. If they're a class side, here's Glenn Lazarus. He's beaten 3. Finally gets the pass away to Wood. He's taken by Eddinghausen and Miller. Mills. Speechley around his ankles. Gary Coyne takes it up now. 1 up, but he made 5 or 10 metres. Only 9 metres out. Stewart to O'Sullivan. Comes around him. The flick inside. Gaffey has supported Belcher, and Belcher scores under the post. With a kick to come, Meninga can put them in front. It's 10-all. Gary Belcher finishing off a beautifully worked move. Gaffey coming on the inside, through the middle. Decoy runners on the outside. This is beautiful execution from Canberra. Stewart gives it to O'Sullivan and comes around him. Decoy on the outside was big Mal Meninga, but inside was Gaffey. He made the bust. There was Belcher, who changed direction, and under the sticks is Gary Belcher.
This is a move shades of Tommy Bishop. I don't know whether you can remember back that, but you have a look where he's watching O'Sullivan. He's watching outside to Mal. The ball flips back inside. Wilson should have covered the hole, but a great change of direction here by Belcher. 6 points.
Well, Canberra are a class act, and that was just a class try. It's 10-all. Mal Meninga is right in front of the posts. He missed 2 easy kicks earlier on today. This one is the easiest of the lot. Can Meninga put the Raiders in front? He moves into it. It's over the black dot. The flags are up, and Canberra hit the lead 12 points to 10. Meninga wants a drink, but he's done the job.
Well, this is a rehearsed move. They knocked a couple in. Ricky Stewart out to O'Sullivan. He didn't look where he passed it. That was a bit of a Hail Mary pass, but obviously they've done a lot of work at training, and Gary Belcher puts the Raiders in front. Mark Bell is on the field for Carey.
And what a great change of direction by Gary Belcher at the last moment, and to manage to pull the pass in. An element of luck, but a lot more skill.
Yeah, all top shelf. Just have a look at the error rate here. 40 missed tackles. They just keep increasing. 40 missed tackles.
Well, we said that Cronulla surely couldn't hold out the Raiders in their own territory for so long. Here's Gaffey getting a good ball away to Collins. Good football, Nigel Gaffey and Wayne Collins, 2 replacement players. Meninga steams ahead.
Well, they've finally found the pattern here. They're getting themselves on the front foot, and everyone's showing a little bit of urgency here.
Yeah, I think they're getting a bit of a hand from Cronulla, Arthur.
Well, they've looked vulnerable for the last 20 minutes, haven't they, Cronulla? It was just a matter of time before Canberra scored, and they're starting to look very much like a beaten side. Once again, a great kick from Stewart.
Heartbreaking when you're a side who's on the back foot like Cronulla. Ricky Stewart just keeps thumping those kicks in. It's a Cronulla ball. Well, they're going to have to look for Mark McGaw and Andrew Eddinghausen. They're the ones who can pull them out of this.
Well, at Calix Oval, they did pull it out in the last couple of minutes. We can recall back to that game.
That's right. First round, it was Eddinghausen under the posts. The penalty goes to Cronulla, so here's a chance to get back towards halfway. Eddinghausen wants to get on with the game quickly. That's a good kick. Alan Fitzgibbon would realise that this result is just so important to his team.
Well, it's another nail in the coffin, isn't it, if they don't win this one.
If they lose this game, they aren't finished for the season because of that easy draw coming home. Canterbury won't be easy, neither will Illawarra, nor will East, I suppose, but they'd rather be playing them than some of the teams like Brisbane and Balmain coming home. So if they lose today, they can still win 3 out of 3 and maybe scrape into the semis, but it would make it a lot easier to win. They're down by 2 points. Eddinghausen goes wide. Knocked by Gaffey, got it to McGaw. The pass is loose. It went forward. Now what's the referee? He says the pass earlier in the movement. I think the one from Eddinghausen went forward.
We have a look here. It's a line ball, but he has ruled the pass on Eddinghausen to Mark McGaw, and rightly so, touch forward.
McGaw was in some space, though McGaw in the end seemed to lose the ball forward as well. It was a chance, and here's Stewart. Ricky Stewart now has a chance to turn on the post. Chased by Docking, gets away from one tackle, one of Davidson, and loses the ball. On the first tackle, Ricky Stewart just needed to take the tackle.
I'm very happy with himself.
Another replacement coming on is Dave Barnhill.
We have a look here, just going around from the scrum base. Just knocked him down there, Davidson. docking, finishing off the tackle, but in his urgency to get up and run again, he wasn't held. He fumbled the ball.
Just seemed to be flicked out of his hands. You probably couldn't really blame Ricky Stewart there, the hand just knocking the ball as he was trying to get back on his feet. Now another lost ball.
Yeah, Wilkinson just taking his eye off the ball. He's a replacement there, and his first shot at first grade coming on as a fresh reserve, but just muffing it there.
Well, I'm afraid that might be just about it. Cronulla down by 2 points. They're inside the final 5 minutes. And they're at the wrong end of the field, Cronulla. Belcher, tackled by Eddinghausen, and gets it away, and it's a try to O'Sullivan. It's all over for Cronulla today. The Raiders celebrate. They're jubilant. The try laid on beautifully. Chris O'Sullivan finishes magnificently. That's his second try. 2 tries to Chris O'Sullivan. Very similar in the way they came. The overlap created. Ricky Stewart on the open side of the scrum. Gives it to Belcher. Belcher pulls in Eddinghausen, opened up the hole for Chris O'Sullivan. He speared into that gap and was close enough to the line to fall over as Wilkinson tackled him.
If we have a look there, Wilkinson, the lock forward, still has his head in the scrum. Someone forgot to tell him that it's his job to break to the open side, and unfortunately they just had the numbers, Canberra.
Wilkinson arrived, but just that fraction too late.
Well, he made the original mistake, and unfortunately I think he probably hasn't played a lot of lock forward, and he just didn't get out of that scrum. He was still had his head packed in the scrum.
Second try of the season to Chris O'Sullivan. They've both come in this game. He joined the Raiders in 1982, one of the originals. Cronulla hang their heads. It's 16 points to 10. Meninga can make it absolutely certain. And it's through. The Raiders are home. The Canberra Raiders will move up to 27 points. They're almost certainly into the semi-finals, if anyone has any doubts. But Cronulla now know that they're going to have to win all 3 and hope. And look at those missed tackles. 45 missed tackles. The breakdown of those is going to be very interesting to see who was missing them.
He certainly played well, Ricky Stewart. There's been some great performances, even though they weren't all that impressive in the first 60 minutes, but I think Glenn Lazarus has played well. Ricky Stewart has certainly had a great game, and also Gary Belcher and Johnny Ferguson.
Looking at the men who have made the tackles for Cronulla, Gavin Miller, Arthur Pappas and Alan Wilson leading the tackle count, but it's the ones that have been missed that have been crucial. But it's not just a matter of simply missing tackles, it's also the pressure you put yourself under, and Cronulla, by simple mistakes like kicking out on the full on the 5th tackle, not getting the good kick in on the 5th tackle, have let themselves down badly in the second half after they had the lead.
Yeah, Laurie Spooner happened to do more tackles than he should have.
Well, that means the front line's been broken too many times. Chris Quinn. Tackled by Glenn Lazarus. Well, we said Lazarus has played well. He really has. Down there to O'Sullivan. And you can see Lazarus is trying to ram home his superiority. He's thumping him into the dirt. He's enjoying himself now. He's made 34 tackles. He's leading the count for the Canberra Raiders. Wayne Collins and Nigel Gaffey also getting through plenty of work. Wilkinson hits it up. Canberra lost Ivan Henjak, Kevin Walters, Craig Diamond and Steve Jackson this year. But they look as if they're going to figure in grand final, certainly semi-final contention once more.
Terrible attempt to catch a football there by Mark McGaw. You just will try to take that one-handed, you know, you just don't do those things. Starting to make schoolboy errors. He was led by his mistake, Wilkinson. He got out that time.
Meninga stands up, pulls in the defence. Back to O'Sullivan and Stewart. Here's Matthew Wood. Wood has plenty of pace. Gets it away to Stewart, backing up well. Ricky Stewart showing good support play. Barnhill. Good run from Barnhill, driving them back. The Sharks are getting weary. It's only 9 metres out. Coyne goes across field. Meninga will score. Great try from Mal Meninga. He put himself into the gap on the inside of Gary Coyne.
And once Mal Meninga has open space in front of him, 10 metres out, no one is going to stop him. Good work here from Gary Coyne, not renowned as a ball player. He went across field, opened it up on the inside. Meninga read the play, and they just simply couldn't stop the big fella.
You have a look here. Gary Coyne had to go up. There was the first receiver here, and it was a belated move put on by Gary Coyne. We have a look. He does the crisscross with Gary Coyne. Mal Meninga, a simple try. Welcome back to form.
Try number 13 for Mal Meninga, the top point scorer in the competition. He's been piling them on this season, Meninga. 13 tries, 51 goals. He's over the 150-point mark for the year, getting up towards 160.
Well, he certainly played well today, Mal, and he's put his head down and got on with the job. He has been playing all that well, but take my hat off to him today.
Good attack from the Raiders in that try, but the Cronulla defence starting to open up. Meninga puts 2 more points on the board. So you look at the scoreboard as the full-time siren sounds, and you would think that Canberra have dominated the game. It's 24 points to 10. That hasn't been the case. Cronulla led at half-time, 6 points to 0. They played a strong game of football with their own mistakes and the power and class of the Canberra Raiders. Finally got on top and took full advantage. The Canberra Raiders, the winners, 24 points to 10 over the Sharks.
So the 2 points go to the Green Machine of Canberra. An important win for the Raiders, which takes their premiership tally to 27, consolidating their position in the top 3 in the race for this year's Winfield Cup.
The players leaving the field here at Bruce Stadium. It is a magnificent arena, and those Canberra fans are pretty happy about the result. I'm sure they'd put money on their side to be in this year's grand final. And Gary Belcher's on the sidelines with Johnny Pearce.
Oh, Gary, terrific effort, particularly in the second half.
Yeah, it was, you know, I thought our effort in the first half was good, although we made a lot of errors, and, you know, Cronulla certainly, you know, put it to us, but the effort was there, and the second half we held on to the ball a bit better and it improved.
Yeah, well, you certainly made some breaks in the first half, plenty down the edges. Was that the tactics against Cronulla? Because it seemed to become effortlessly, really, but you couldn't finish it off.
Well, our tactics against every side are to make breaks, don't we? They just came on the edges today, yeah. You know, we're pretty happy with the way we attacked it.
Yeah, well, there was some good work up front by Glenn Lazarus. He's trying to make the form, isn't he?
Yeah, I thought Lazo had one of his better games of the season.
Yeah,
good
okay.
work.
Thanks a lot, Gary.
Thanks, mate.
Gary Belcher played such a good game of football, but he always does, doesn't he? Very good player is Gary Belcher, the Australian fullback. Though Gary Jack starting to show some form once again. Put a bit of pressure on Belcher. Let's have a look at the details of the match. O'Sullivan scored 2 tries. Belcher and Meninga 1 each. Meninga ended up with 4 for 6 after missing those 2 easy ones early on. But Cronulla tries to Coleman and Wilson kicked 1 from 3. Let's find out who was Arthur Beetson's best in this match here at Bruce Stadium. Top forward Glenn Lazarus taking out Arthur Beetson's best on the field. Look at the figure there, you can see, encouraging his teammates. He led from the front and he also drove his teammates to produce the effort. But Arthur, I know that Glenn Lazarus wasn't the only good player for the Raiders today.
Oh, Ricky Stewart certainly played well. Gary Belcher, Mal Meninga, and but I thought it was up to Glenn Lazarus. He led from up front, and that's where games are won or lost. It doesn't matter how many good ball carriers you've got, but if you haven't got someone who's doing the work up front, and Glenn Lazarus, he led the way.
Let's have a look at the last try of the match. One of those last tries from the Canberra Raiders, certainly a good performance. In that last 20 minutes, the Raiders started to look like the side that won last year's premiership. And what a magnificently executed move that was.
It was a great try there. As we said before, it was a great pass from O'Sullivan there, but great footwork also by Gary Belcher. But it was a great effort all told. They could forget the first 60 minutes, but that last 20 minutes, Tim Sheen would be very happy with it.
Okay, a quick look at tomorrow's games, and some very important games there are. 3 particular. Parramatta versus West, important for Parramatta. Manly versus Brisbane, and Newcastle versus Penrith. Those games, all important, and you can see my tips there. Guaranteed tips there. Make sure you get on them. But some very important games, and particularly that Brisbane-Manly game will be a very interesting result. Next week, we'll be at North Sydney Oval.
Good afternoon, Angela Pearman with ABC News. The United States is taking a sceptical view of Iraq's claim it will start pulling out of Kuwait on Sunday, 48 hours after invading. Iraqi troops are reported within 10 kilometres of the Saudi Arabian border, and President Bush has issued a warning to Iraq to stay away from Saudi territory. In New South Wales' central west, floodwaters have peaked at Dubbo without causing serious damage, but the towns of Warren and Forbes are bracing themselves against possible flooding tomorrow or Monday. Depositors with the collapsed Faro group of building societies have today been getting some of their money back. Those with surnames in the first half of the alphabet can get a quarter of their funds this weekend in a bank cheque from the Victorian State Bank. East Germany has called for reunification of the two Germanys to be brought forward 2 months by holding joint elections on the 14th of October. West German Chancellor Helmut Kohl has welcomed the new timetable, but smaller political parties say it's a blatant attempt to reduce their vote. Time now for sports news.
Today, from the French Alps to the Australian ski fields, Zali Steggall returns home to compete for the green and gold. In Melbourne, a huge crowd turns out to celebrate Michael Tuck's 400th game for Hawthorn, and the All Blacks outclass the Wallabies to retain the Bledisloe Cup. Hello, I'm Karen Tai. Thanks for joining us. Also today, North Sydney bow out of the semi-finals race in Friday Night League and the weekend's results in AFL. For first racing, and with the transfer of today's Sydney meeting from a sodden Warwick farm to Randwick, we begin with the day's main fixture, race 6, the San Domenico Stakes. The track was heavy, with Varicos the favourite at 7-4.
Moving into second place, and then Princess Yates, followed by the Bullfighter and Pagan Jest. At the 200, Ace K is a mile in front. He's gone further ahead, 5 lengths on Varicos, followed by Pterodon. Do you think this hasn't improved in a fortnight? Ace K, he's making them look second-rate, and down to the line he goes. Ace K wins by 8 lengths. Varicos second, Committal.
In his 4th start, the Bart Cummings-trained Ace K recording his first win at 13-4, ahead of the favourite Varicos and Committal. Still at Randwick now, and race 7, the Reminder Handicap.
They get to the top of the hill. Regal Shalar raced up to head Tendency. Donegal missed wide out, running on Gamely, followed by Unsurpassed. Regal Shalar the leader. Donegal missed on the outsiders. Desperately ridden now, inch by inches, pegging back Regal Shalar. Regal Shalar still in front. Donegal missed, can't quite pick it up, and Regal Shalar punched out, beat Donegal missed.
Shane Dye on number 1 Regal Shalar at 9-1, followed by Donegal Miss and Tendency, the unplaced favourite opening number. Finally to Melbourne and Sandown, race 5, the Moondar Plate.
Durham Rivers Bosleyan was next, wider on the track, Western Frontier, and then Mrs. Selleck. They're all under pressure. Black Blaze kicked away at the 200. He's got 3 in front now. Durham Rivers trying hard. Rigadoon down the outside, but it's all going to be to no avail. Black Blaze is going to streak them, and Black Blaze comes down to win nicely, being eased down by 2 lengths Bosleyan. Rigadoon got...
Another win for the Bart Cummings stable, with the favourite Black Blaze at 9-4. Number 9 Boss Island second at 15-1, with Rigadoon third at 8-1.